right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks, Ken, very much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. Here we go again as we get closer to what should be a fascinating end to the regular season in the National Football League. 412-575-2600 is the number to call. You can hit me up here at KD Pomp, or you can go at Chris Mueller, PGH. Chris is over at 93.7 The Fan, where he's been manning the PM show this week. And, Chris, I want to start with the Pro Bowl. I only say it because, first of all, I don't care. They're playing games, and it's almost a waste of time unless you just have nothing better to do and you want to watch a bunch of people running around doing all these skill competitions, which may be better than the game. However, Chris Boswell, in my view, should have made this team. I know Justin Tucker, and I don't know that Minkah Fitzpatrick deserved it reputation is reputation, but, you know, I see a guy like Geno Stone down there in Baltimore who's a Newcastle kid and a guy we've gotten to know him over the years. Based on his season, how's he not on this roster? Or do you care?
No, God, no. Care about the Pro Bowl? Absolutely not. Watt obviously deserved to make it. Man, I'm surprised Miles Killebrew made it as a special teams ace, seeing as he had multiple penalties in one game. I would think that that's such a razor's edge kind of deal that it would be tough to make it. Minkah probably did make it on reputation. He hasn't had a true Minkah Fitzpatrick-esque season. I am a little surprised that a guy like Geno Stone didn't make it, solely because Baltimore is so good this year and their defense is so good, and usually great teams that have great, defenses or offenses end up fielding a ridiculous number of players to the Pro Bowl. But you said it most accurately, Bob, at the very beginning of this. I don't care about the Pro Bowl.
All right, let's talk about something you will care about. We all do, and that's this weekend. It seems to me, this sounds strange, but the Steelers' chances of making it may be better if they don't win. The scenario with Denver, I was looking at some of the stuff going on with Vegas, and I wonder about that game. I don't know why. I know it's a conference situation, but would you put larger stock on them winning against Baltimore, even though Lamar Jackson's not playing, and one of those two teams losing, whether it's Jacksonville or Buffalo, or do you look at it the other way, and even in a loss, Jacksonville may lose that game. It all comes down to, I think, what Jacksonville does, because I think Buffalo's going to beat Miami. Your thoughts on that game? Because it seems like Mike Vrabel is loaded for bear. Like, he really wants to go out. If it's his last game or it's Derrick Henry's last game or whatever, they want to be a spoiler in this situation.
Oh, Vrabel's dropping F-bombs at press conferences, challenging reporters. He's a complete psycho, and that's a good thing for the Steelers. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to be fully healthy. I don't think Trevor Lawrence, when close to fully healthy, has really had a consistent season. So I do think that there's a very real chance that Tennessee wins that game. I'm against you, though, on the Buffalo thing. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the Bills win that one. If it was in Buffalo, I would feel a lot better about that, or I guess worse, since the Steelers need them to lose, or potentially do. But I think down in Miami, even with the Dolphins having lost in really inexcusable fashion Bradley Chubb to a torn ACL in a game he shouldn't have even been in, and even though they don't have Jalen Phillips, they still have firepower offensively, and in their own building, I still would have a hard time just casually betting against them because that offense can be so explosive. Cold weather team can go down there in the heat and cramp up a lot. So I don't think that's a given. But, Bob, I would rather the Steelers not try to do this the backdoor way with the Denver win, the Jacksonville loss, and then the non-tie in Colts-Texans. Because didn't a playoff berth flash a couple – well, yeah, you have to have a non-tie, and we all laugh about that, right? Except 2 years ago, the Raiders and Chargers could have played to a tie and kept the Steelers out.
That's
Instead,
right.
Brandon Staley decided to do Brandon Staley things. So I actually think they're going to get in. I think they're going to beat Baltimore in the slop down there. I know it's a turf field, so it's not going to get that messy, but I think they're going to beat the Ravens. And then I do actually believe Vrabel's going to make it easy on them and not make them sweat it out until 11:30 Sunday night. And I do think the Titans are actually going to beat Jacksonville and punch the Steelers' ticket.
And then how dangerous do you think the Steelers can be? And a bigger question is, if they play well again, any controversy over your quarterback starter?
None for me. If they play well again, Mason, I think, is, based on the weather forecast, it's likely to assume he's going to have his least impressive numbers, because I just think they're going to be run heavy. They're going to try to short pass and really, in bad conditions, it looks like, not put the ball too much at risk. But unless he blows up and they somehow win with like him throwing 3 picks and them just barely skating by, I don't think there's any controversy whatsoever. I think he has to start a playoff game. And frankly, Bob, I think they're dangerous. One, because the Ravens are the best team in the conference, but they wouldn't see them in the first round. Two, they're scoring points. Their offensive line looks like, partly because the passing game is so much better, it can take over football games. I don't think they can defend just about any playoff caliber offense because they're so beat up the middle, even with Fitzpatrick looking like he's going to be back. But if you can put up 27 to 30 points a game, you can beat anybody any week in the NFL. That's what they've been lacking for so long.
And more importantly, if you possess the ball the way they did of the last couple of games, you know, this defense can get shredded only because it has so many patchwork guys. But last week they only were on the field for 47 plays. That makes life a lot easier for even a patchwork defense. So the key to me would also be running the ball the way they have. And you're right, they can be very dangerous. So what do you think out there? Call us. Air your opinions about that, about anything Penguin related. You name it, we talk about it right here. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, 7 nights a week, right here on KDKA+ and simulcast on 93.7 The Fan. Give us a shout. We'll wait for you after the break. The GMC Sierra tweet of the night, or X of the night, comes from the NFL on CBS. The Browns are about to become the first NFL team in over 35 years to start 5 different quarterbacks in a single season. Jeff Driscoll joins them. And the reason is Joe Flacco is going to be rested. Chris, if I had told you at the beginning of the season that Joe Flacco would be leading the Cleveland Browns to where they are and he would be rested in week 1 because he's put up unbelievable numbers and they don't want to risk him, what would you have thought?
Well, I wouldn't be more surprised, Bob, if I had woken up with my head sewn to the carpet, as a matter of fact. I know I'm a little bit late on a Christmas Vacation reference, but come on, humor me here. It's been shocking, but I think it proves a couple of things. One, if you've got a good scheme and good offensive minds, and I do think Stefanski is that, and you've got a good offensive line, which is the real story there. They're on like their 5th offensive tackle, Bob. They've had a ton of injuries on that line, and Bill Callahan has really kept that thing together. Then a guy like Flacco, who's always had the arm strength and can make plays when he has a clean pocket, is still going to be able to thrive. Clearly, he can still sling it. He's kind of a high event guy, right? A lot of touchdowns, a lot of interceptions, but
he's not afraid to throw the ball down the field too, and he keeps doing it regardless.
Right. I mean, they've got the defense, I think, to bail him out when he makes some interceptions happen that shouldn't. And I think those guys, most importantly, really believe in him. I mean, he's completely unlocked Cooper and Njoku to an extreme degree, Njoku especially. They have 2 big-time weapons. And I would also say 2 other things very quickly about that situation. Unbelievable coaching job by Kevin Stefanski, honestly. And I've ripped the guy and said he's not a very good head coach. I got to eat my words there. He's more than proved me wrong. And you know what I think they're completely unburdened by, Bob? No Deshaun Watson means no obligation to, like, do things his way because you're paying him so much money. They're just playing free and clear, and I think they are a legitimate contender to win the Super Bowl. That's how good I think they can be in a 4-game playoff setting.
They absolutely could be, and I wonder what would happen at the end of this year with Joe Flacco, even though they owe so much money to Deshaun Watson. If he wants to come back for a 1-year deal, for example, and they have success, why wouldn't you do it? We'll find out. It's going to be interesting to see. But right now we need to go to the hotline here. We have Jim in Greentree on line 1 who joins us first here tonight. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Okay, Bob, how you doing?
All right.
You doing, Chris? Hey,
hello, Jim.
Bob, how can the Steelers be 4-point favorites over Baltimore?
Because Baltimore's not going to play Lamar Jackson and a host of other people. That's how. It's just what people are going to look at and bet. It's simple. It started the other way.
They are starting a Pro Bowler, Bob, at quarterback.
Yes, they
Pro
are.
Bowler Tyler Huntley.
And he's beating the Steelers.
Put some respect
right?
on his name.
Hey, I remember when RG3 was the guy in a similar situation a few years ago. You never know what you're going to get. All it takes is a couple of bad plays, turnovers, and that's what the Steelers have done. Pretty good job of not committing. All right, Chuck in Uniontown, you're up. Thanks for joining us, Chuck.
Thanks, fellas. Who's more like, who do you think, when all said and done, is more likely to lose, Buffalo or Jacksonville?
I would say Jacksonville. Chris?
It's actually a good question because I think obviously Miami's a much better team and that's a much closer matchup in terms of on paper. But I don't know. Maybe we're all getting suckered in by this Mike Vrabel rhetoric, but it just seems like that guy is willing to treat this particular game like it is his Super Bowl. And I don't know. They've just got something about them with that Titans team. I do think they're going to go out motivated. I guess I would say they've got a better chance to get the win here. But again, I might be on an island, maybe on this show for sure. I really think Miami's got a shot to do it too.
I just don't like Miami's defense. With all the injuries, the way they've been giving up points so freely, they are playing at home where they can outscore people, no doubt. But Buffalo's had success scoring points down in Miami as well, and I think they're pretty comfortable, although I saw that Josh Allen has been dealing with a neck strain of some sort. But I got to believe he's going to be at his best in that game, and we'll see what happens. And they're going to be very dangerous if they should get in, or they may miss it altogether. It's pretty weird how things are. Basketball note tonight, UMass beats Duquesne. Duquesne had a good non-conference schedule, but they got in the middle of a 16-0 run in a very close game, broke it away. UMass wins. Pitt, of course, lost last night, which is our next caller. Joe in Mount Pleasant wants to talk some Pitt hoops. What's up, Joe?
Hey, this is Joe calling. I was at the game last night. Big Tar Heel fan and also a big Pitt fan. I lived in North Carolina for 12 years, so we were fans down there, me and my sons. But now I've got my allegiance both ways. But anyways, there were 3 officials on the game last night, but you would have thought there was only one. If you ever watched the video of the game last night, the one official who was black, he was glad-handling and talking to all the coaches, talking to all the fans, talking to everybody on the table. Meanwhile, the other referees were trying to get the game going, and he was delaying the game.
Well,
that guy's name is Ted Valentine. He's one of the most famous officials, if you can even say that, in the sport. He knows all these guys because he's been around for an eternity.
Yeah, I remember back in the Big East days. I mean, he does go back. The other thing, regardless of that situation, Pitt, they're a team that likes to shoot a lot of threes. Blake Hinson did not have a good shooting night. When you don't have a good shooting night, and in Syracuse they had a terrible foul shooting night. Those were winnable games, I thought. Even last night, Chris, it pulled away late. They didn't score as much as they normally do. But this is a terrible start for a team that I thought was going to actually be a competitive team in their conference. They still may be, but boy, it's not going to get any easier here coming up. Even Louisville, you never know what you're going to get there at the Yum Center.
I will say this. I think I almost said yum. No, I do think, remember when Jamie Dixon was sort of in his heyday or towards the back end of it, we would try to psychoanalyze some of their games. They were a good team, but when they would lose, you'd kind of say, what was this little thing, that little thing, lack of this, lack of that. It's pretty cut and dried when this Pitt team loses. They shoot the ball well. They're going to blow most teams off the court. That's just the truth. Like, if they're making three-pointers, they are going to probably light up whoever they're playing. And if they're not, they're probably going to have a very hard time winning. I think it's a testament to them being overall a hard-playing team that they still kept that close for the majority of the game, but they can't shoot close to what they did last night and expect to beat anybody that's worth a damn in the ACC.
I agree. They have, if you're not going to get an inside game, you better make sure you make those shots outside, and they just did not do it last night. Kenny in Brownsville joins us right now. Hey, Kenny.
Hey, Bob. If the Steelers find a way to get into the playoffs, who do you think the quarterback should be and why? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Well, if Mason Rudolph plays well again and they get in, I think you roll right. I think Mike Tomlin has played that hand. He's benched Kenny Pickett, who's now healthy, because he believes that this is something that's moving in the right direction. And why wouldn't you? Why would you want to be the one to stop that from happening? So I think it's a clear-cut decision, quite frankly. And then it leads to an interesting offseason, Chris, because I think at that point you'd have to really consider what are Mason Rudolph's options.
Well, let's just hypothetically play this out very quickly, Bob, okay? Obviously, I'm with you. I think Rudolph should start a playoff game unless he craters in Baltimore and they still somehow win. If he gets them into the playoffs, though, and say they win a playoff game, they might have to play the Chiefs if that were to happen, something like that, and they go in there and Rudolph continues to hum with this offense and pulls a big upset, how could you next year not find a way to bring him back, because you'd have numbers to back up for 4 games that he had played really well. And here's the other thing, and I know you had to have noticed this too, everybody did. Look at the belief and the buy-in that offense is playing with from man 1 to man 11. Pickens form tackling a guy after a turnover that ends up being overturned. Pickens holding on to his blocks. Deontay going way up the ladder to catch a pretty average pass or below average pass from Rudolph and turn it into a huge gainer. The line doing what they did. I mean, these guys believe now. They've got somebody at that position that is making them want to play hard and buy in and believe. You can't turn your back on that in the offseason.
No, there's no question. And they'd have to come up with money. Trubisky would be gone. They'll take a cap hit, but they'll figure out a way if that's the case. It's going to be interesting for sure to find out what happens. We're due for a break. We'll take it. Come back with more. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. Davis joins us in Lower Borough. Hey, Davis, what's up?
Hey, how you fellas doing?
All right, what's up, man?
So, quick question. If the defense comes out on Saturday and kind of fails, if Mason plays all right and the defense kind of just gives up some soft points, like they've kind of done this year, do you guys believe Austin Shaw should be in jeopardy? He has the players, but the creativity of the defense just doesn't seem to be there. You had Flores in here last year that you could have used, who seems to be doing great.
I think at the end of the season, if they should lose and not get in, and the defense cost them, okay, they got, again, a lot of people playing out of position, a lot of practice squad guys. All I know is I think there will be change to the coaching staff, and it starts with offensive coordinator, but we'll see what it plays out. At this point, that would be my focus, Chris.
It would be my focus, but I wouldn't mind getting somebody else in here. If we know that maybe Mike Tomlin has a huge hand in the defense, but perhaps the play-to-play calling of signals is somebody else's job and they might get some input behind the scenes. Give me a younger mind. Give me somebody that might have some new ideas that would challenge Tomlin a little bit and maybe tweak what he likes to do. I think Flores obviously fit that bill and is mostly having success in Minnesota. I think you should absolutely be looking at the other side of the ball, even though I think the idea that they've had the pieces all year is incorrect. They've been racked by injuries for the latter half of the season.
Real quick, if Faulkner and Sullivan continue to do well and this goes into the playoffs, so we only have 30 seconds, would you consider bringing back those two again?
I'd consider it, but not strongly. I don't think having a nice, strong finish to the season should be any reason to not seek out the best candidate for the job in the offseason.
But I think Faulkner's done a really good job of the running backs, and Sullivan's done a good job, too. Both will be back on staff, just a matter if they have a boss ahead of them. That's going to do it for us. Chris Mueller, have a good night. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Bob Pompeani. We'll see you at 11 on KDKA. Have a great night.